Okay, guys, so now we've actually understood, okay, we need to include our 4 identity pillars into our trailer episode. We know it needs to be 90 seconds long, but how do we actually go about doing that? Well, like any good movie trailer, you're going to have a script that you're going to follow. Now, if you don't have a copy of this book, Expert Secrets, one of my favorite books out there, Russell Brunson goes into the Epiphany Bridge script in detail inside this book. What I'm going to read out to you guys now is a little bit of an understanding of it so you can understand how you can use the Epiphany Bridge script to create your script for your particular intro, and also not just for your intro, but for your trailer episode, which is what we're talking about today. Now, if you want to know where this is in the book, it's page 115. So the Epiphany Bridge script is made up of a few different elements. The first part is the backstory. That's where we're going to start from a point of high drama. It's where we get the audience to really care about what's happening in the story. Any great backstory, you want people to be invested. How many times have you been to see a movie and then halfway through the movie, you didn't really care about what happened to the protagonist at the end? I know I've been in that position. I'm sure you probably have too at some point. So we don't want that to happen for you. So we want people to really care. So what you want to do is you want to use one of these 5 different elements when you're creating your backstory. And any really great backstory will include 2 of these 5 elements. You can either use, you can be the victim, you can have jeopardy inside of your backstory, you can have likability, you can be funny, or you can be powerful. And these are some really important things to consider when you're putting into your backstory. Now, the next thing in the Epiphany Bridge script is to talk about your desires. What is it that you actually want to accomplish? And remember that when you're telling this story, you're going to have 2 sets of desires. You're going to have external desires, and then you're also going to have internal desires. So external desires is stuff that's happening elsewhere. Internal desires is what's happening inside. And then after that, you're going to be hitting the wall. What was the wall or problem that you hit that is stopping you from continuing with your journey? Once you've hit that wall, then you're going to have an epiphany moment. And the epiphany is crucial to be able to give you that realization and to move through to the next step. Now, once you've had that epiphany, you can move into a plan. And that is where you start to execute on what it is that you want to go and doing. And typically, when you do a plan, you go somewhere else to go on a journey. So in my introduction, you guys will hear that I go on a journey and I fly to the US to face my fear, to go all out to build my $1 million business. And that's my intro in the Entrepreneur Junkie movement. And what I'm doing is I'm going somewhere different. I'm going on a journey. It's a plan that I'm going to go and implement. And that's what you guys should be having inside of here as well. Number 6 is the conflict. What's the conflict that you face on the way in that journey? For me, it's like, although I flew all the way to the US to try and face my fear, I really didn't have any idea about how I was going to build this business completely from scratch. So I needed help. And then the final thing that you're going to have inside of your Epiphany Bridge script is the achievement, and then more importantly, the transformation. When we talk about the hero's 2 journeys, if you read Expert Secrets, he goes into this in great detail. Well, I think I'll probably drop a link down to Expert Secrets down below so you guys can grab a copy of it. But in Expert Secrets, the hero's 2 journey talks about there's the journey on the top, which is the first journey that people go through. And then there's this transformative story underneath that people go through. So if any of you guys have watched the movie Cars, this is a really great example of somebody that's gone through 2 journeys. At the beginning of the movie, Lightning McQueen, he's, this hotshot racer. He wants to win the Piston Cup. That's the big thing that he wants to do. And pretty much the whole movie, he's like, I want to win. I want to win. That's what I've always done. And then at the beginning of the movie, he gets down and out and he has to go to this small town, build up friends so he can get back into that position where he can race and win the Piston Cup again. And along the way, he has these journeys, he has these epiphanies about himself. And then right at the end, in the climax of the movie, he's in the Piston Cup once again. He's near the finish line in the final lap and he's neck and neck with his partner. His competitor, right? The guy who's in second place. And that person, he spins off and he crashes. And, Lightning McQueen then is in first place. He can see the Piston Cup, winning the position is right in front of him. He just needs to keep going and he'll win. And what he decides to do instead is he doubles back and he goes and helps his friend that's crashed out. And that, what we're talking about there, is the transformation in the journey. The first journey he was on is getting back into that position where he's going to get back to the Piston Cup and he's going to win it again. And that often is the kind of story that you tell people out there. My story right now is I'm building an online business so I can get to $1 million so I can cross the ClickFunnels stage to grab my 2 Comma Club award. But what you don't see is the transformational story underneath that's going on all the time. In terms of the balance that's going on. The transformation for Lightning McQueen was that it wasn't as important for him to win the cup as it was to help his friend. So his journey has actually had a second part to his journey, which is that transformation. So where does that matter about the trailer episode? Well, what you want to be doing is that these different elements of the Epiphany Bridge script, you want to be including these elements in your trailer episode. So your trailer episode is only going to be 90 seconds to 120 seconds long. So you don't have a whole bunch of time to put all that information in there. You have to fit in your backstory. You have to talk about the internal and the external desires. You have to talk about the wall that you hit. And typically what happens is when you have that epiphany and you go on that journey, and that's the plan that you want to go and implement, usually the end result is that you are creating this podcast because you want to do X, Y, Z. So what you guys want to do is that when you get to that plan phase and when you get to the conflict phase, you really want to be talking about who the podcast is for, and I had this epiphany and I realized that I really want to help this person, this kind of business. I really want to help people who are creating online businesses, whatever it might be, hairdressers, whatever your who is. And the next part, then you want to be starting to talk about, okay, well, what are we going to talk about on the show? And then in the plan and the conflict stage, you can start to share these details. So I decided to create a podcast where I talk to people about creating a mass movement for businesses. The end goal of me helping people to create their own mass movement so they can create massive impact in the world. So you can start to talk about not only the who and the what, but the where that you want to take people. And then finally, once you get to the achievement phase, you can start to tell people about why they should listen. So we're creating this podcast. This is my journey. And this is why we're going to be different and why you guys should be following along. And all throughout the time of you doing this, you should be going through and thinking about how can I tell the story to my audience so that it's intriguing, it grabs their attention, but also crucially, so they can understand who this podcast is for. And you want to be teasing things about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and really getting people excited. But what you'll find is if you follow the Epiphany Bridge script format, you're going to have a much easier time of telling those stories, because instead of you trying to tell it all in 2 minutes and be like, this is what I want to do, that's what I want to do, you can put it into the story format, and people consume stories so much easier than they consume facts. And that's going to be the best way that you guys can go about doing that. So I'm going to drop a link down to Expert Secrets below. We're also going to drop down some examples of some really great intros and also some really great trailer episodes, so you guys can go and see what a great trailer episode is going to look like. And we're also going to put down some examples of some of the people that have already been through this program, so you can check out the trailer episodes that they created as well. If you check down the video down below, guys, we're going to put that in there as well.